Hey brother, let me say something out loud that a lot of men are thinking but haven't had the right words for. It's not hate. It's not bitterness in the way people dismiss it. It's something more honest than that. It's the feeling that comes after you've given your best, genuinely given it, and watched the return be either nothing or worse, something that cost you everything you'd built. And at some point, a man stops, not out of weakness, out of clarity. He looks at what the game has been asking of him, and he says, I'm done playing by these rules. Let's start with the investment problem, because this is where most men feel it first. You didn't go in casually. You opened your wallet, sure, but more than that, you opened your time, your attention, your emotional reserves. You showed up. You listened. You restructured your weeks around someone else's needs and moods. You absorbed the hard conversations, the 3-hour phone calls, the moments where she needed you to be fully present while your own struggles were quietly shelved. That's not small. That's the kind of investment that a man makes when he genuinely believes in something. And then the accounting arrives. Not in a single dramatic moment, usually. It arrives as a gradual recognition. She's pulled back, or she left, or the relationship that was supposed to be a foundation has become a legal dispute, and you're standing there with nothing to show for years of real investment, wondering not just what happened, but what you were ever thinking. That's when the question surfaces. Was any of this worth it? The financial dimension of this is something men increasingly can't ignore. If marriage was supposed to be a partnership, a mutual structure built for building something together, and in many cases, the law treated it exactly that way until it didn't, until divorce rates climbed, until the legal architecture of many systems meant that when a marriage ended, one person's sacrifice and contribution was measured one way, and the other's was measured completely differently. Men who gave years, who built things, who stayed committed while she drifted, often emerged from that process as a monthly payment and a supervised visit schedule. The thing that was supposed to represent commitment became one of the highest risk transactions a man can make. That's not cynicism, that's math. And when a man runs those numbers, he doesn't stop believing in love. He stops believing in the structures that are supposed to protect love. Those are different things. Then there's the emotional volatility problem, and this one is harder to talk about without sounding soft. But let's talk about it anyway. The modern dating environment has created a particular kind of woman, not a bad woman necessarily, but one who has been conditioned by infinite options to remain perpetually in evaluation mode. There's always another match, always a different tab open, and that constant availability of alternatives produces a psychological state that makes genuine commitment genuinely difficult. You show up, you're consistent, you do everything right by any reasonable standard, and her mood still swings, her interest still fluctuates. You're warm and she needs space. You give space and she wonders why you're distant. You express a need and you're suddenly too much. You suppress needs and you're emotionally unavailable. There's no stable ground. You're constantly calibrating, adjusting, second-guessing, and all of it is exhausting in a way that has nothing to do with being in love and everything to do with surviving an emotional environment that was never designed to be livable for you. At some point, a man starts asking himself, what is this actually doing to me? The loyalty question is where things go quiet and serious. Men are wired to commit hard. When we're in, we're in. We don't tend to keep an eye on the exit while simultaneously building something at the entrance. That's not universal, but it's a pattern. Men who love in a way that's relatively uncomplicated by what else might be available, but the dynamic we're watching in modern relationships often doesn't reward that. The term hypergamy gets thrown around so casually now that it's lost some of its weight, but the reality it describes is real. The inclination to trade up when something perceived as better comes along. And when you've watched that play out, when you've been the man who gets replaced by someone with more status or more novelty or more excitement, your fundamental belief in loyalty as a two-way street takes serious damage. Not because women are the enemy, but because the incentive structures of modern dating don't particularly reward loyalty. They reward constant reinvention, constant excitement, constant stimulation. Steady, reliable devotion reads as stagnation in that environment, and stagnation loses. D. A man who watches this long enough stops seeing loyalty as a strategy that works and starts seeing it as a beautiful idea that the current landscape consistently punishes. Here's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. What the chase does to a man over time. You change, not suddenly, gradually. You bend yourself to fit what she seems to want. You silence parts of yourself that don't match her preferences. You shape your communication style, your ambitions, your emotional expression, your daily schedule around her expectations. You do all of this not because you're weak, but because you care, and caring makes you adaptive. But after enough rounds of this, you look in the mirror and don't quite recognize what you see. The man standing there has been adjusted so many times for so many different women that his own baseline is hard to locate. His own preferences feel less certain than they used to. He's good at performing for someone else's idea of who he should be, and not sure anymore what he actually is. That loss of self is real, and it's one of the most serious costs of this pattern that almost no one names honestly. So where does all this leave us? At a fork. And both directions on the fork deserve honest examination. One direction is the full withdrawal, no vulnerability, no openness, no attempts. Walls up, focus entirely inward, women treated as a category to be avoided rather than people to engage with discerningly. That has the surface appearance of freedom, but it's actually a different kind of trap. It's reactivity wearing the costume of independence, and it tends to produce a particular kind of loneliness that gets louder with time, not quieter. The other direction is where the real work is. It's not finding the right woman, it's becoming the man who can actually choose well and then commit to that choice from a position of wholeness rather than need. That distinction matters enormously because the man who's trying to fill an emptiness will accept conditions that the man who's already whole would never consider. Here's what the rebuilding actually looks like. First, stop investing in yourself in order to be more attractive to women. Start investing in yourself because the life you're building deserves your full effort. There's a difference in how that feels from the inside, and the difference in outcome is significant. Treat a man who trains, works, builds, reads, and develops because those things matter to him carries a different energy than a man doing all of it as a strategy to attract. Women sense both, and the man operating from genuine self-investment doesn't need to perform confidence because the confidence is real. Second, raise the standard for what you'll give your time to. This means asking better questions earlier, not interrogating someone on a first date, but not pretending that how someone handles conflict or pressure or difficulty is irrelevant information. The person who becomes annoyed by meaningful questions is giving you meaningful information. A woman who wants a real partner welcomes the depth that comes with being genuinely seen. Third, build a circle of people who have been through something. Men who've navigated this landscape, made costly mistakes, and came out with genuine insight rather than just bitterness. Not to validate your worst frustrations, but to help you tell the difference between a pattern that's actually toxic and a moment of normal human difficulty that your raw pain has inflated into evidence of everything being impossible. And then there's the single most important reframe in all of this. Solitude, pursued consciously, is not a consolation prize, it's a foundation. The man who hasn't built anything he values in himself before he tries to share his life with someone is building on sand. Every relationship he enters is carrying the weight of his own emptiness, and that weight is too much. It makes him needy in ways he can't always identify. It makes him tolerate what he shouldn't because the alternative, being alone, feels unbearable. But the man who has built something real in the time he was alone, who has his health, his direction, his peace, his sense of humor about himself, his clarity about what he actually values, that man enters a relationship with a different equation. He's not looking for someone to complete him. He's looking for someone to complement a life he already respects. That shift changes who shows up, and it changes who you're able to choose. The frustration beneath the phrase, "women aren't worth it anymore," is legitimate. It comes from real experiences, real losses, real exhaustion with a landscape that has been genuinely harder to navigate than anyone promised it would be. But the conclusion that flows naturally from that frustration is only one of several possible conclusions. The other conclusion, the more useful one, is this: the version of the game everyone told me to play was never set up in my favor, and I'm choosing not to play it that way anymore. That's not giving up on love. That's refusing to mistake motion for progress, refusing to keep bleeding energy into dynamics that were built on terms you never agreed to. You're not withdrawing, you're recalibrating. You're building the kind of life and the kind of self that makes a genuine partnership possible, rather than just probable by proximity and timing. And in that recalibration, something that felt like an ending reveals itself as something else entirely, a beginning. On your terms, finally.